First of all, let me greet good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and for some of us, it is night already. So I welcome all of you to this very important webinar series, number 3. This is focused on the SRI Global Research Network webinar. It's series number 3, where we are going to hear from 2 eminent speakers about SRI research in Africa. So we have 2 speakers. By the way, before I introduce the 2 speakers, my name is Ravi Joshi. I'm a senior consultant at the Philippine Rice Research Institute, which is a national institute, not the International Rice Research Institute. And I am a strong promoter of SRI, especially many years back in Solomon Islands. And also some of the other Pacific Island countries are also promoting SRI. So we are very lucky to have 2 speakers, one from East Africa, Tanzania, and the other one from West Africa in Nigeria. Before I forget, let me repeat. My name is Ravi Joshi. I'm from the Philippine Rice Research Institute. I'll be your moderator today. And we have 2 eminent speakers here, one from Tanzania and one from Nigeria. So it's representing actually the system of rice intensification research in Africa. I'm a strong promoter of SRI, especially in Pacific Island countries where I have worked before. So just a few reminders. Each speakers have been allocated around 30 minutes for their presentation. And after the 2 speakers have presented, we'll have a 20 minutes Q&A, and then I will summarize or at the closing ceremony. So thank you so much for all the participants who are attending from different time zones and this important webinar. So let me go with the first speaker. Let me introduce our first speaker today. I'll be very formal. Dr. Primitiva is actually a Tanzanian. She is an agronomist and a soil scientist by profession. And she has more than 14 years of experience working on soils, farming systems, and smallholder farmers across Tanzania and East Africa. So she will be talking to us today on a very important topic on eco-rice, the SRI pathway to multiple sustainable development goals. And please help me to join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Primitiva as she shares her invaluable insights today. So the floor is yours, Dr. Primitiva.
Thank you, Josh, for the introduction. Let me go straight to share my screen.
Thank you.
Can you enable me to share my screen?
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, very clear. Please go ahead. Yeah,
Okay,
excellent.
thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for attending this webinar. I'm going to share with you about how the system of rice intensification is the pathway to the multiple UN Sustainable Development Goals. And this is my presentation outline, where I'm going to talk a bit about Tanzania so that you can know which country I'm talking about. Then I talk a bit about Sokoine University of Agriculture, where I'm based. I work as assistant lecturer and I'm in the Department of Soil and Geological Sciences. Also, I will give you a bit overview about agriculture sector in Tanzania. Then we're gonna share with you about the research on the system of rice intensification in Tanzania. Then I will highlight some of the area of collaboration. I will conclude my talk as well as I will acknowledge some of institutions and some of the people. So you can see in your screen the flag of Tanzania. Yeah, in your right and hand side, at the top corner, both sides. Yeah, this is our national flag, which has 4 colors with the meaningful way, where we have green color, which symbolizes Tanzania agriculture and its natural wonders, plus the green vegetations. We have a blue color, we are seeing it represents lakes, river, Indian Ocean, and the other sources of water. We can see black color, which represents the national people. Most of the people were black. And the yellow is the symbol of national mineral wealth. We have various wealth, and the yellow is represented by the gold. And you can see the location of Tanzania in the map. From the left-hand side, you can see this is Tanzania with 31 regions. In between, you can see the location of Tanzania in the African continent, as well as in the right, you can see the location of Tanzania, which is a global location. So Tanzania, you can see it is situated just south of the equator, and the size of the country is about 945,087, and the largest East African country, and the 13th largest country in Africa, and the 31st largest country in the world.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay, now it's working. Yeah, so Tanzania is bordered with different countries. Yeah, in north is bordered with Uganda, Lake Victoria, as well as Kenya. This is a big lake. And in east, we are bordered with Indian Ocean. In south, we have Mozambique, we have Lake Nyasa, we have Malawi, we have Zambia. And in west, we have the very important Lake Tanganyika. We have the country which is Burundi and Rwanda. So you can see how Tanzania, we have bordered with different countries as well as the important water sources or water bodies. Okay, dear participants, let us proceed. Yeah, let us see about the climate in Tanzania. Yeah, the climate in Tanzania, we have the hottest climate as well as the cold climate, depends on the different agroecological zones. And the hottest period we have that it extends between November and February. And we have the coldest one, which is within August and May, and you can see the ranges of temperature. And also we have the cool climate in mountainous areas. And these, they affect differently when it comes to the implementation of different agricultural enterprises. Next. Yeah, let me share with you a bit about the university. which is Sokoine University of Agriculture, where I work for 10 years now. Yeah, this is a public university based in Morogoro, which is eastern part of Tanzania, and is located on the slope of the Uluguru Mountains, the very important mountains in a global climatic circulations. And this university started and was established in 1st July 1984 by the Parliamentary Act, and now is operating under the University Charter that was started in 2007. And this university is offering different courses and the programs ranging from certificate, diploma, master's, PhD, postdoc. So it's a very known university across the region as well as the global. It offers agriculture and allied sciences like other courses like veterinary medicine, science, we have forestry, animal science, wildlife management, tourism, environmental sciences, food sciences, natural resource management, nutrition, rural development, science education, and computer sciences. Next. Yes, yeah. Now, participants, you can see the overview of Tanzania agriculture sector, yeah, which contributes 26% of gross domestic product, and it contributes 65% of industrial raw materials, and 62% it provides the employment for 62% of the Tanzania population, and it contributes 30% of forex earnings. And now, when it comes to food security, Tanzania now we have 124% of food security. And by this year, 2025, we expect that Tanzania from agriculture will contribute 140 of food sufficient, and we expect that 40% will be traded to neighboring countries. So we have been trading different agricultural products to other countries. Next. Okay, now let us see about about rice production, which is a very important crop, and it's the staple food for more than half people in the globe, and it feeds about 4 billion people globally, and it accounts about 50 to 80% of daily calorie intake, and it goes beyond not only source of food, but rice, it is embedded to people's culture. For example, in Vietnam, somebody will ask you if you have eaten. It means when somebody asks you have eaten, somebody is asking you if you've eaten rice. So you can see the rice is very embedded with people's culture. The same in Tanzania, when you invite somebody for the ceremony, for the wedding and the other celebration, somebody will tell you, you are inviting me for rice, to eat rice, or you are inviting me for pilau, that is a kind of cookies. So you can see the way rice it is embedded to people's culture and the tradition. So we are expecting the increase of the people around the globe. So the rice production should increase 50% by 2030. And by 2050, rice must increase by 28% to meet the growing population. And when it comes to Tanzania, we produce over 8% of rice, which is produced in Africa. So any reduction in productivity in this production systems will affect the food security of the region. And the current average rice yield in Tanzania is about 2 tons per hectare. Next. Yeah, so there are some challenges that we are facing when it comes to rice production. So some ranges from the agronomic management, some due to climate change. So we can see that rice in the water-loving crop, you need 3,000 to 5,000 liters to produce 1 kilogram of rice. And now water is the scarce resource. So we needed to see how we can be able to produce rice with less water. And we can see the productivity of rice is very low. In Tanzania, the productivity ranges from 0.4 to 0.1 to 0.14 kg. And this is less compared to other places, which is 0.6 to 1.6. So in Tanzania, 90% of the rice is grown under continuous flooding. And this practice requires a large amount of water. And there are other factors that is facing rice production. There is low soil fertility, poor good agronomic practices, plus other biotic and abiotic factors. And at the same time, the life that is feeding more people, still they are contributing to climate change, where the production of rice and a continuous flooding contributes to 11% of agricultural greenhouse gases emissions. Next. Yeah, so let us see about system of rice intensification and its principles. Yeah, so this is the system of rice intensification we are talking today. Yeah, this is it advocates new ways of rice cultivation, which challenges farmers' knowledge and the skills to the extent that they are required to learn, experiment, and integrate new principles according to their local condition or as well as agroecological conditions. So it has different principles. It has different cultural practices. When you compare with the conventional practices, you can see when it comes to age of transplanting seedlings, and the conventional practices, farmers, they transplant the seedlings when they are about 3 to 4 weeks. But when it comes to system of rice intensification, the seedling is transplanted during the 8 weeks to 12 days. Generally not more than 15 days. And the number of seedlings transplanted per hill, it is 1 in Yesala High compared to the conventional practices, that is 3 to 4 seedlings are transplanted per hill. And the spacing of seedlings, when it comes to convention, it is dense transplanting. You find the spacing, it belongs, maybe it ranges 10 to 20, spacing, that is 1 seedling or 1 hill after another one. But when it comes to system of rice intensification, the spacing we practice 25 by 25 or up to 35, and in a square pattern compared to the conventional practices. And system of rice intensification, it involves water management, which is alternate wetting and drying compared to continuous flooding, where farmers, in conventional practices, most of the time the farm is flooded with water about 10 to 20 centimeters. Then compared to the continuous flooding, where there is some of the time where water, we leave water to go down at 15 centimeters when we irrigate. It can take 3 to 5 days. It depends with the water holding capacity of that soil. So when it comes to weed control, the conventional practices, most of the time they use continuous flooding to reduce the pressure of the weed as well as end weeding. And when it comes to system of rice intensification, the practices is to use the simple mechanical equipment, that is rotary weeder. And in fertilizer management, system of rice intensifications allow the integration or the use of organic manure, or it depends on the availability of the organic manure, but you can integrate or you can use only an organic fertilizer, or you can integrate both. Next. So these are the principles of system of rice intensification. Now system of rice intensification differs from the conventional practices. So the system of rice intensification, through implementing its principles, we found that system of rice intensification can accelerate over half of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that we are going to see how system of rice intensification. So we say system of rice intensification is eco-rice, means ecological rice. It involves reducing more use of more resources with taking care of the environmental impacts. Let's proceed. Next slide. Yeah, I will share the case study of my research that I did during my PhD, the research on system of rice intensification in Tanzania. This was conducted in Mkindo, Morogoro, from 2019 to 2020. You can see the field at different stages. The lice at different stages. Let us proceed. Next slide. So we are in this experiment, we are trying to see the different, how different, our system of rice intensification and the conventional practices, they contribute to rice yield, water productivity, as well as nitrogen use. And also wanted to see furthermore about the most important component of climate change, about the greenhouse gases emission, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and the system of rice intensification as well as conversion. You can see on your right hand side, you can see the photos. I was in the greenhouse where I learned the experiment of in a greenhouse as well as field condition. Next slide. So you can see now this is a study site that was Mkindo. You can see the location of the study site. Yeah, you can see the photo starting from the top in the middle. That was the lice after 1 week transplanting. The second, you can see the lice was at the mid-tilling stage, and this is the at maturity stage. And in the right-hand side, this is the location of the study site, which is within Morogoro. Next slide. Yeah, this is the climatic condition. Yeah, this is about 21 years of the mean temperature and the rainfall of the study site. The area received the tropical biannual rainfall regime. Let us proceed. Let us proceed. Next slide. Yeah, let us see the way we laid our experiments. So the experiments, yeah, it was 2 experiments. Yeah, the experiments were arranged in a split plot randomized complete block design, replicated 3 times, where we had 2 factors. Yeah, crop management practices were at the main factor in the main plots, which were system of rice intensification and the conventional practices. And then you had different levels of nitrogen, yeah, ranging from 0 to 150 plus absolute control in each cropping season. And we had our subplot that was 16 meters square, as well as all plots were surrounded by bands and the 2 buffer strip left between the main plot and the 1 meter for subplots. Let us proceed. Next slide. And you can see the details of our experimental treatments. Yeah, when you see the crop management, that we had system of rice intensification and the conversion, and the nitrogen levels, different nitrogen levels, and at the age of seedlings, we transplanted when the seedling was 10 days in SLR, And the conventional practices, we transplanted the seedling when it was 25 days after emergence. And then you can see the spacing, 12 by 25 centimeter for SLR high, and the conventional 20 by 20, number of seedlings per hill, 1, and for conventional 3, and the one you can see the planting density per meter square. Next slide. And in fertilizer management, we used inorganic fertilizers, where the source of full dose phosphorus was from triple superphosphate. We applied 60 kg per hectare, and source of potassium was from muriate of potash, which was 60. And the phosphorus and the potassium were evenly broadcasted and mixed with the soil during transplanting, where nitrogen fertilizer source was from urea, and there was applied at 2 times, 50% during 2 weeks after transplanting, and the 50% during panicle initiation. Let's proceed. So with the variety that we transplanted is TXD 360, that is called Salo, semi-aromatic rice, Salo 5. This is the very famous and well-known and the preferred varieties planted by farmers in Mkindo, where we conducted our experiment. And before we transplanted, we prepared the nursery, and you can see different practices in the farm that we are going on. Let's proceed. Yeah, about water management. Yeah, during that experiment, yeah, we used the PVC polyvinyl pipe, yeah, to manage water, so that we can be able now to see how water savings or water productivity. So you can see the first photo, that was how the pipe looks like before installation, and this is where the pipe was already installed. And for the first 14 days after transplanting, a 3 to 5 centimeter water depth was maintained under conventional practices and the SLR high. Thereafter, plots for conventional practices were continually flooded with the depth of water 3 to 10 centimeter level until 10 days before harvest. And after the 14 days of transplanting, SLI plot were kept with a layer of 2 centimeters of water until initial tilling. Then after that, we continue with the alternate wetting and the drying of and always this, it took about 3 to 5 days to irrigate the SLI plots. Next slide. You can see the photos, yeah, where I was monitoring the water level at different depths. You can see the first photo here, where there was no water in the plots that you can see. So we are monitoring this water at 15 centimeter depth is when we allowed the water to get in. Next slide. So we also used the calculator, the gas calculator, that is called the sector, to able to estimate the amount of the greenhouse gases within both management practices. So let us see some of the results from this experiment. I'll share a few results. Yeah, you can see we were able to look on the effect of crop management practices and the nitrogen levels on effective and non-effective tillers, filled and unfilled panicles, as well as grain filling rate. You can see now in wet season and in dry season, the effective tillers, yeah, when it comes to the SL high and the conventional practices, you can see the SL high, the way it has more and it has more effective tillers. The tiller that has a grain filled within within. And you can see non-effective tillers as well as the field panicles now, where there is a grains within the panicles. You can see it was higher in SL high, and you can see even during the grain, the wet season is where they were different in grain filling rate. Next. Yeah, and which we monitored the yield, straw yield, and other parameters of yield. Now you can see, I will talk much about the yield, grain yield. You can see even the straw and the grain yield. And light grown and SLI system of intensification used nitrogen more efficiently, and we are going to see the nitrogen use efficiency, and this could be the factor that contributed to more grain yield, plus the spacing that allows the SLI seedlings or rice to be able to expand much to get enough space, as well as the aeration that is brought after you let the water goes as air circulation. So you can see, there was 10.7 during wet season and a 34% increase in rice yield during the dry season. You can see the way it improved the grain yield, and the yield increased with increases nitrogen. But you can see when there was no yield increase at 120, this trend here. At 120 kg hen in wet dry season and 90 kg, there was in dry season, there was no increase in grain yield. Next slide. So now we can see how can we link this increase in grain yield with other sustainable development goals. We have different sustainable goals, but system of rice intensification, you can see through the increased in rice yield, as well as minimal or reduced requirement of seeds, because you can see we are transplanting one seedling per hill compared to the conventional where you transplant 3 to 4 seedlings per hill. You can find now, you can see the amount of the seed that you are using in a system of rice intensification is minimal. So there is increase in reducing inputs, SLI lessen the cost of production and improve the household incomes when it comes to the no poverty as sustainable development goal number 1. Now, the sustainable development goal number 2, now we can see there are different facts or different research that has been done here in Tanzania. In the right-hand side, you can see different, there is Luben, Etoro, and Kaimba, as well as Kangile. They've noticed the yield increase up to 24%. And in our research, we have seen the increase about some of the researchers in other place, they've seen up to 50, others they've seen more than 100. So we can link this improved rice yield via SLI. You can link with the sustainable development goal number 2, that is zero hunger. Let us go to the next slide. Another sustainable development goal that system of rice intensification could help in achieving it is about good health and the well-being. You can see at the right hand side, the woman pushing the corner or the weeder. Weeding in cultivation is traditionally carried out by women and require long hours spent painting in uncomfortable mud and unsanitary pads. But you can see using the rotary weeder, it helps now, at least when you are working with this equipment, at least you can use less time you can reduce now the time you bent over. So this can be linked to good health as well as well-being as sustainable development goal number 3. And system of rice intensification help in gender equality. You can see now when it comes to the weeding, as I've said, there is the research that has been done in India. It shows mechanical weeders can reduce women labor requirements up to 76 per hectare. So you can see the way system of rice intensification can help, is helping in contributing to gender equality as the sustainable development goals number 5. Next. So there is the issue of clean water and sanitation. Yeah. In our research, we find that system of rice intensification, we can save water 15 to 34%. So, and this saving of water, it helped to contribute to the other water to be used to other uses, as well as can be saved for other purposes. And we have seen in our research that there is improved nitrogen use efficiency by SLI compared to the conventional practice. So we can see the amount now of nitrogen that that is reduced through, or is now reduced from being wasted, from reaching, and the other loss of nitrogen. So you can see, next slide, you can see now the way it can reduce the pollution of water, because some of the nutrients will be taken by plants. So the pollution of water is reduced. And this also could be contributed to even the ability of the SLI plants when it comes to root characteristics. You can see in our research, you can see the volume of the 5 SLI plants, as well as the volume of 15 SLI plants that we took, as well as the dry weight. So it shows that SLI, the root is big, as well as it is it helps to extract more nutrients. And this is about the agronomic nitrogen use efficiency and the partial factor productivity, supporting that system of rice intensification. They are able now to take more nitrogen, or to use nitrogen efficiency compared to conventional practices. Next slide. Yeah. Another sustainable development goal that system of rice intensification is linked to, and is helping in contributing to, is decent work and economic growth, because system of rice intensification improves the productivity of land, labor, water capital, and energy, making rice farming more profitable. So we can see the way it is linked to, can go back, it's linked to decent work and economic, and the farmer's net income could be doubled per hectare and improving the household. Another sustainable development goals linked to system of rice intensification is about reduced inequalities. So system of rice intensification is shown that they perform relatively better on poor soils, where you can find farmers, most of farmers, they have no cash or no more access of fertilizers. So it helps when the poorer soils can be cultivated, and still farmers can harvest at least a bit. Next, let us see the issue of climate action. Sustainable system of rice intensification is helping in contributing to climate action. Because we have seen that system of rice intensification can reduce the greenhouse gases emissions up to 70%. Next, let us see our data. Next. Yeah, you can see there from our results here, you can see that system of rice intensification reduced methane to 60% compared to conventional practices. And there was a reduction of global warming potential up to 57%. So you can see the way system of rice intensification is contributing to climate action as one of the sustainable development goals. And another sustainable development goals is about life on land, as well as partnership for the global goals. So you can see the system of rice intensification. There are some of the research that has been done by other scholars to see the diversity of different organisms within the soil. And it shows the system of rice intensification supports biodiversity. And most of the time, if you are integrated with the soil, you integrate with the manure or you apply manure within the soil, there are different population of microorganisms that you can see compared to conventional practices. Also, the partnership, another goal for the partnership, nowadays system of rice intensification, it has been operating more than 20 years, over 60 countries. So you can see the way different researchers, policymakers, they are working together to bring the partnership or to bring the collaboration when it comes to contributing to food security. So sustainable development goal number 7 is being linked now to system of rice intensification. So the area of collaboration that I'm calling, I'm calling to collaboration to different partners so that we can be able to scale up the system of rice intensification, because I'm sure that there are still some areas that need to be trained, need to test the different varieties at different soils. So I'm calling upon lighting collaborative projects aiming at scaling system of rice intensification. I'm calling upon different stakeholders, you participants, to prepare different trainings, different workshops, so that we can be able to impact our farmers' knowledge, to impact our students, to impact different stakeholders, this knowledge, so that we can be able to see how we can contribute to food security. And in conclusion, system of rice intensification can accelerate over half of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by cultivating life through ecology or eco-rice or agroecological approach. So let us work together to scale up system of rice intensification. So I would like to acknowledge different institutions that supported my research. In 2018 to 2022, like World Bank supported me through Aramaya University in Ethiopia at the Center, Africa Center of Excellence for Climate Smart Agriculture and Biodiversity Conservation, Sokoine University of Agriculture, where I'm based, as well as my research advisors, Dr. Kibebeo Kiblet, based at Aramaya University in Ethiopia, Professor Norman Hapworth. I'm happy that you are joining us, as well as Dr. Peter Mtakwa, who is the retired now, who was based at Sokoine University of Agriculture. So I thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Primitiva, for your excellent presentation. It was very good. And I'm sure all your slides will be shared to all the participants. And after the second speaker, we'll have Q&A. But very good thing about your presentation, which I learned, is how you have linked your research to different UN sustainable goals. And I think the second point you stressed is working together on SRI, because we still have a lot of key areas that we need to address. It's such an important methodology of SRI that we need to promote more and more in many countries, not only within Africa, but also in other continents. So thank you so much again. Now I would like to invite our second speaker. She is from Nigeria, Professor Aisha. She is from the, she is a distinct professor of soil physics at the Department of Soil Science in Ahmadu Bello University, Nigeria. This is a very famous university because I have been working in Nigeria for 2 years, and I also happen to visit this university. She'll be giving a talk on a very important, another equally important topic on how to enhance food security in Africa through SRI. What are the challenges and opportunities? So the floor is yours, Anisha, and I hope you'll be able to present within the time, because we have to manage a little bit of time. Thank you so much. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Ravi. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to everyone. Aisha Abdulkadir, and I'm from Ahmadu Bello University's area. I'm from the Department of Soil Science and affiliated to the Institute for Agricultural Research. And today I'm going to talk to you on enhancing food security in Africa through SRI. What are those challenges and what are those opportunities that we will see? So my outline of the presentation will be to give a little bit of overview of SRI. I will not go into much of the details because Privi has already done that. And then I will look at global spread of SRI as well as SRI research in Africa. And then we'll look at some of the challenges that we have in this aspect of research and some recommendations and the opportunities offered by SRI, and as well as a little case study of SRI implementation in Nigeria. So SRI is based on some certain principles and practices. I will not go to the much details, but then we know that we have the use of early or young seedlings that are just 8 to 12 days old, which are healthy in terms of plant establishment, and they are so vigorous in terms of the establishment. Then we also have the use of one plant per hill and at a wider spacing. We also see that there is a use of organics, a lot of organic inputs in terms of the use of green manuring when the weeding is done and the weeds are buried into the soil, they decompose and become manure, as well as the use of compost in fertilization. So the minimal use of chemical fertilizers and chemicals in weed management. And then we also have the way to manage the water using the alternate wetting and drying technique. There, the soil is not left funded with water, but rather under the lowland production system, there is the aeration of the soil by leaving it not to be under continuous flooding, compared with the conventional practice of rice production, where the crop is left under flooded condition. So some of these advantages of these principles, when they are put together, you see that they have high number of tillers and panicles, and they are very good grain filling for the crop, as well as they have very prolific deep roots systems that are not they don't die easily. So looking at the global spread of SRI, you see that SRI has been validated in 65 plus countries in Africa, Asia, and in the Americas. We see here different parts of Asia, Southeast Asia, Far Asia, some parts of the Middle East, and then we have some researches and SRI work done in the East Africa, a lot in East Africa and Madagascar, and then several done too in West Africa. So you can see that and then you also have parts of the Brasilia or the South Africa, that South Americas, that this work of SRI is also being conducted. So you can see that SRI has spread across the globe, And some of them are small testing of SRI, which has proven effective for small-scale farmers adoption. Some have some organizational support, developing moderate farmer adoption in one or more of these regions. And some of these places, we have the multiple organizations supporting SRI for places, especially for places like Nigeria. But in places in Asia, you see a very national policy support that has been firmly in place for SRI in multiple regions for it to flare. So let's look at SRI research in Africa. So in Africa,
Professor
when we
Aisha,
look at the database,
excuse me, Professor Aisha,
yes.
can you put it on the presentation mode?
Okay.
Your slide, yeah,
Okay.
please. Thank you so much.
Is it coming?
It's yeah, now it's great. Okay, go ahead.
It's coming. Yeah. All right,
yeah.
good.
Okay.
So SRI research in Africa. So some of the, when you look at some of the database, especially the Zotero database, you find that you have 1,735 plus articles comprising of 9.7% that is coming from Africa. And from it, you see that the top in these journals are Tanzania, Kenya, and Nigeria, where you have Nigeria producing 23 journal articles on SRI research, and Kenya having some 26 plus articles. And then the highest number of articles, you find them in Tanzania with 42 articles. So in some of these countries have various levels of SRI adoption. You can look at it across the African continent. For West Africa, you have almost all the countries there having 1 or 2 levels of adoption of SRI. Later, we will see what particularly practices that is being done. Sometimes it's not the full package or the entire SRI practices, but you have some packets of SRI practice in this in the researches in these countries. And when you look at Central Africa, we have Cameroon and DR Congo. And then for East Africa, where we have the Regional Information Center at Kenya, in Kenya, we have countries like Burundi, Ethiopia, Kenya, Mozambique, Rwanda, and Zambia having a center place in this participation on the different levels of adoption of SRI. And for South Africa, we have Madagascar. Madagascar is one of the longest countries that have done these practices of SRI in Africa. And then we have Malawi, Mozambique, and Zambia, where these researches are taking place in Africa. We can also see some parts of Asia, close to the Middle East, in the north of Africa, in Egypt. We have places like Iraq and Iran, and where this practice is also being conducted. We have one of our scientists here, Khidir, who is championing SRI in Iraq. And then we have also some of the parts of Asia that are conducting this SRI. So 13 countries in West Africa that belong to the ECOWAS have some projects that were conducted in the past and some that are upcoming. The ECOWAS project is upcoming in 2023 to 2027, and it's a $40 million project funded by adaptation funds and implemented by Sahara and Sahel Observatory. And these countries that are in this map is where this project is taking place. While in the past, there was an SRI WAP project in 2014 to 2016 that was funded by WAP, a grant under CORAF by World Bank. And that project benefited up to 50,000 plus farmers, and almost 750,000 farmers were benefited indirectly. So when you are looking for the database in the research for research in Africa, these are some of the keywords that were used to search for these researches in Africa. Some are on plant establishment in terms of the seedling ages. Some are on plant density and spacing. Some are on the number of seedlings per hill that has been transplanted. Some are on the planting time, some were on direct seeding, nutrient management, organic inputs, and so what have you. When you come to the physiology or the morphology of the crop, we look at roots, the root morphology, the soil biota in terms of soil health. You look at the soils, there are tuning, the crop varieties. Some are SRI trials alone, some are on-farm trials with farmers in the participatory manner. Some are under aerobic or rain-fed condition, like upland rice production, and what have you. There were some researches that were on that offer socioeconomic benefits of SRI, looking at the marketing, looking at the profits, the social impact, the policies and the technological suggestions for these practices, as well as the extension and pest and diseases that are already really incurred into these production systems. So here in these slides, we have top 10 SRI research topics in Africa. Like I mentioned previously with the keywords, some of the topics were on seedling age, some are on the organic input, some on social impacts and on gender, some that are on climate change or greenhouse gas emissions, some are on economics, but the highest here is on water management and system comparison, as between the SRI systems and the conventional practices, as well as the yield. So the top research topics are on the water management, system comparison, yield, and nutrient management. So here, I want us to look at some of the identified challenges in this area of research or in SRI in Africa, and the recommended strategies that are going to improve that will overcome those challenges. These challenges may not be particularly for Africa alone, but may also have one or few adaptations in other countries or in other continents, but these have some general recommendations. So one of the challenges here is application of SRI principles requires the modification of existing practices. Of course, farmers have to change their ways of the conventional practice, and it poses some challenges because of the resistance of some farmers to change, which is a social constraint. And here the recommendation is to provide comprehensive training and capacity building, to sensitize using easily readable training materials for the adoption process to be adhered to. We also look at a challenge here, which is lack of inputs such as high quality, small equipment, and water. So here there may be the need for the government intervention in terms of various stakeholders coming into place, such as government, NGO, agricultural extensions, sometimes even the private partnerships, public-private partnerships, to work together towards ensuring better access to inputs and SRI farmers, thereby accelerating the adoption and scaling up of the SRI practices. So SRI farmers were unable to produce reliable biofertilizers. This is a constraint. And for some of these practices, they need for integrated nutrient management, where the organic fertilizers may not be enough for the farmers to use in their production systems. So providing training to farmers to produce more homemade biofertilizers from agricultural waste through anaerobic fermentation, as well as to educate them on nutrient management principles, including the importance of balancing NPK nutrients. These are one of the ways to overcome those strategies. For some parts of Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, where the crop residues are sometimes a constraint or have competing uses, there's still some challenges in this aspect. So one of the challenges are also limited market access and incentives. And the recommendation strategies here is for opening market channels for SRI products by connecting SRI farmers with private sector. So that in the end of the day, SRI is not only driven by government, but it's driven by markets and demand It's something that is driven by the practice itself by the farmers. So lack of infrastructure is also a constraint. It's also a challenge. So although it can easily be integrated into existing infrastructures, there's a need for policy framework to support the implementation of SRI in Africa. So, of course, there's also the lack of government support and policy makers, although that is also a changing narrative. But SRI methods should be included and incorporated into agricultural development plans, offering financial incentives and subsidies for farmers who want to adopt the SRI practices and recognizing SRI as a sustainable agricultural approach. There is also another challenge of lack of coordination and concentrated research efforts among SRI researchers. So although it can also be, SRI can also be integrated into existing infrastructures, there is a need for a policy framework to support its implementation, as well as foster collaboration for coordinated research among all the SRI research and promoting the SRI network. So some of the opportunities we see in Africa that can help in making Africa rice secure in the future is the availability of vast resources, which is land, water, and human resources. These are opportunities for expansion of rice production. And then there's also the growing demand, where 40 to 50% of rice consumed is still imported. This will now foster local production because of the demand and in the changing diet for rice as a staple. Rice is becoming a staple for many people in Africa, in the African diet. So there's also an opportunity for the input markets, where opportunities like bringing in small tools or mechanization or fabrication fabrication of tools and their sales, the seeds, good seeds, as well as the organic fertilizers and the sustainable inputs for production are all market opportunities that can help, that will enhance rice sufficiency in Africa. There's also aspect of improved technologies like SRI that we are talking about, which can also provide these opportunities of expanding, of enhancing the food security. Employment creation from SRI and the foreign exchange earning, all from increase in yield, increase in productivity, in production, increase in mechanization or in fabrication by local artisans, provide employment opportunities and incomes for smallholder farmers. So here, let me just make a little case study of an SRI treatment project in Nigeria that was done in a Bakolori irrigation scheme in Zamfara State, which has a total of 23,000 hectares of land, and 80% of this total area is under rice production. It has a dam which has a storage capacity of 450 million cubic meters of water, and the area is surrounded by 22,000 farmers, approximately 22,000 farmers. So this is a little map of the study area where we have Nigeria here, and then we have Zamfara State here in red. And within this Zamfara State, we have the different local government areas. And this work was particularly done in Tarata Mafara. And in Tarata Mafara, on the right-hand side is the map of the Tarata Mafara, which is a local government area in Zamfara State, and which has some different communities within them. And these farmers are spread across these different communities. So one of the technologies that we tested in the project, although the project has other aspects, other areas, there's the aspect of the economics, there's the aspect of the ergonomics, using of the mechanization, there's also the aspect of the nutrient management. But this result here, this results here will focus on some of these SRI practices that we tested in that project. So we looked at the plant spacing. We looked at the plant spacing of 20 centimeter by 20 centimeters, 25 by 25, and 30 by 30. And then we also looked at the farmers' practice, the farmers' spacing, which for most cases are irregular, are just between 10 to 15 centimeters. Then we also looked at the transplanting ages. We started from 9-day-old seedling with 11, 13, 14, 16, 18, and those are greater than 21. Those that are greater than 21 days old are actually the farmers' seedling ages that they use for transplanting. We also looked at 2 water management techniques or technology, where we have the alternate wetting and drying, where the soil is allowed to drain to 15 or 20 centimeters below the root. And then we now add back water to 5 centimeters above the soil surface, 3 to 5 centimeters on the soil surface. So we do that while in the continuous flooding system, we have the system, the water is resting at 5 centimeters above the soil surface. So some of the cultural practices, we established some raised nurseries, which are were richly fertilized with organic manure. We use organic manure, we use compost, and we use farm yard manure because the project was large. So we also looked at different types of the organic inputs that was used. Then we had the land preparation. The fields were marked. We have 60-meter square plots for each of the treatments, or as stated earlier, these were taken independently. For example, if we take the 20 centimeter the spacing, then we try to see that in an SRI plot, all the principles of SRI are maintained. Only in farmers' practice is the farmers' practice. So keeping one constant and then doing the other practices. The same thing with transplanting, which was 1 seedling per hill, in the specified spacing as per the treatment. We did some monitoring. Weeding was usually manual, except for plots that we were testing the mechanized equipment that we use, the rotary weeder. But for most of these trials, the weeding was manual. There was some supplementation with chemical fertilizers, but it was very much insignificant because the soil testing were carried out and the fertilizer, the organic input were also tested. Where they don't meet the nutrient requirement, it was supplemented with mineral fertilizers. But the organic fertilizers were applied at 5 tons per hectare. So some of the results that I want to show here are, for example, here is the effect of the spacing on the number of panicles and the paddy yield. I specifically just chose these two parameters. So we can see that for this, all the yields that we have under the 3 spacing were above 10 tons per hectare in 2018 and in 2019. But under farmers' practice, we recorded less than that. But in the plots where we have the crops at 25 by 25 centimeter spacing, we have them to be significantly more different than the other treatments and only the other spacing. So looking at also the transplanting ages that we have from 9 to 18 days, as well as the farmers' practice, we can see that there is a higher number of spikelets per panicles, as well as the paddy yield for the younger seedlings. And we had the best or the highest yield recorded in the for the crops that were transplanted, or the seedling that was transplanted as at 11 days old. So this was consistent for both the 2018 and for the 2019 season, and we have the mean of 10 tons per hectare compared with the other seedling ages, and we see a decrease in the yield as the seedling ages were also increasing. And with the farmers seedling ages that are greater than 21 days, we see also the yield is far less than those ones of the younger seedling. So also looking at the alternate wetting and drying, the conventional and the continuous flooding for these 2 years, we have that under plots that were under alternate wetting and drying have recorded a mean of 10.5 tons of paddy per hectare, compared with under the farmers' practices, which was recording less than 5 tons per hectare as a mean across the two years. So in the conclusion, or in the summary, identified best practices within the scheme was the 25 by 25 centimeter spacing, which gave a yield increase of 3.6 to 6.5 over the other spacings, and up to 83.6% yield increase over the farmers' practice. We also have the rice transplanted at 11 days old to emerge the best over the other seedling ages and over the farmers' practice. And then the rice irrigated by alternate wetting and drying also resulted in the increase of yield by up to 128.3% compared with the farmers' practice under continuous flooding. So when this, in the 2 years after these best practices were identified in the 2020, these practices were selected only to be demonstrated on the farmers field, and then all recorded a significant yields for the farmers. So based on the success of the project, this project was done in a participatory manner, using a farmer field school approach in the scheme across the different sectors. And based on the success of the project, the other related studies, SRI practices need to be scaled out in neighboring states and the entire country, that is Nigeria, and Africa in general. Africa can achieve rice sufficiency from SRI as long as the accompanying challenges are addressed or overcome based on the earlier identified challenges and the recommendations. Quickly, I would just like to report of the results that I showed are from the trimming project, and all the partners in the project would like to be acknowledged. The Institute for Agricultural Research, ABU Zaria, championed this project in collaboration with the National Agricultural Extension Research and Liaison Services, NRLS, which is an institute with the mandate on extension in Nigeria, and the NCAM, which is also a mechanization, the National Center for Agricultural Mechanization in Ilori, and the trimming project partners, coordinators, research panel of experts, members of the component 3 and the project team, management staff of the Bacolori irrigation scheme, the local authorities, communities, Zamfara State Agricultural Development Project, the extension agents, our PG students, postgraduate students. I see some of them are here. Some already obtained their PhDs and MScs from this project. I see Alvri, I see Elijah. They are all parts of this project. And the farmers that participated in the project are all duly acknowledged. Thank you. And these are my contacts.
Thank you, Professor Aisha, for your very holistic presentation and for sharing a very important project that you have done on SRI trimming initiative. Very interesting work. We are actually running short of time. We have only, I think, less than 5 minutes for Q&A. So can I request the participants to please ask the questions so that we can at least address some of the questions, and the other questions can be submitted to the speakers on the chat, and they can answer after the webinar. So please go ahead. Anybody? Any questions?
I have a question. I'm not able to find the raise the hand.
No worries. Go ahead, please.
Yes,
So,
I put on my
here.
hand.
Oh my, you put it?
Okay.
Can
Okay,
I
please.
have a quick question,
Okay, go ahead, please. Yeah.
hello, Aisha. Very nice presentation. Here, Carla, I'm from Chile. I'm traveling, so sorry if the connection is not stable. I wonder the size of farmers in Africa, this project, what is the size of the farmers? And also for Tanzania. So what is the average area farmers own?
Professor Aisha, can you please answer?
Yes, I can respond on that.
Yeah, please.
Yes, yeah, thank you for your very good question. Yeah, for the farm size for the farmers, yeah, the land size is ranging from 0.5 hectare to 4 to 5 hectares. That is the average for smallholder farmer.
Okay, that's good.
Thanks.
Okay, can we request, I can see, I think Professor Norman hand up, NTU1. Can you please go ahead?
Benu Pascal from
Okay,
Benin.
I'll put my
Yeah.
sound on. I appreciate both of the presentations and I'm glad to see such systematic work going on. One particular question arose in my mind on Primitiva's slide 25. She showed different results, and the results range very widely from about 25–30% increase in yield to a doubling in yield. And I'm wondering whether she or anyone else at Sokoine University has been trying to figure out why that wide variation. We see that everywhere. That's how our results are not fixed, they're highly variable, which should be expected because this is a biological process, not an industrial process we're working with. It seems to me that in Tanzania, but also everywhere, trying to understand better the determinants of yield variation with SRI methods would be a very good subject, something that, of course, could be done for master's or PhD theses or for researchers who are already well established. We don't have good answers to the question of why the big variation. Is it the effect on the plant's morphology, its physiology, on the soil microbiology, on symbiotic endophytes that are microorganisms living within the plants themselves? We just don't know that fully. So I flag that as a question that researchers in Africa and everywhere might try to focus in on.
Thank you, Professor Uphoff. I think that's a very important area that we must look into it, not only in Africa, but also in other countries, because sometimes the policymakers are asking, what's the difference? And I perfectly agree with you. What you are saying is not an industrial factory. You're dealing with soils, you're dealing with microorganisms. So we need to understand the mechanisms of what is contributing. I think that's a very, very excellent area that we should look very closely into it. Okay, now.
Well, so far we've been,
yeah.
So far we've been focusing on why the difference between SRI and non-SRI.
Yeah.
But also within SRI, we see very great differences. I'll
Exactly.
just add to the map that Aisha showed that Angola now is doing SRI trials and demonstrations. That's one additional African country on the map.
So thank you so much, Professor Uphoff, again for your insights. Can I request the next? I can see 3 hands. Can we request Rusi Nam to go ahead, please? Make your question very short. Yeah.
Rusina Modzi.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
Please.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. You can hear me, I guess.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, very interesting presentation. So I have just one question, but for both speakers. We see that there's a lot of success on this SRI in Asia. So how do we bring this success to Africa? Where do you see the low-hanging fruits or the easier starting point? Thank you.
Yeah. Who wants to respond, please? Aisha or Ramita?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah,
Please
I
make it
can
short, yeah.
just quickly make it short. Actually,
Yeah.
we saw the recorded successes by having some support, institutional support or organizational support. I believe that for us to scale these practices, we need to get more of this funding and support to further advocate, train, workshop, sensitize all the methods we can use to bring SRI to the limelight. Thank you.
Yeah, Primita, do you
Yeah.
want to add something more?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can add up from Professor Aisha. Yeah, in Africa, yeah, there are some of the components of SLI that are being implemented and adopted by farmers. Yeah, not in a complete set. So I can see through support, yeah, we are in a good track. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Can we request Jenubi to go ahead? I can see the hand up. We just have another few more minutes to go. Please go ahead if you want to ask the question.
My name is Pascal
Yeah.
from Benin Republic.
Okay.
I'm a rice farmer. I appreciate all the presentation. It is clear that actually the added value of SRI is not debatable.
Yeah.
But the main question I'm asking myself and we as a farmer ask ourselves is how can we accelerate instead of how can we accelerate the adoption of the SRE by the farmers? What can be done about that? Many times we have projects with money, people work, after everything disappears and we collapse. What can be done really? What are the way for future to make the adoption a reality? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. I think that's an excellent question. You know, I can see you are really a farmer because, you know, this is a very important question on how to really make it, you know, scale it up at a larger scale, even beyond the project ends. I think maybe we are running short of time. I'm sorry, because we have exceeded already 5 minutes ahead of the time. And so I would request the speakers to please answer some of the questions after the seminar, because after this webinar. So just to give a closing, I think I want to thank both the speakers for the excellent presentation and also for the participants from all over the world that are here with different time zones to find time to attend this important webinar series number 3. And for me, I think I have learned a lot from this webinar, and especially, you know, when you hear someone like real practitioners who are doing a good job in SRI, it gives us a lot of encouragement also that we should also be putting more efforts towards the promotion of and adoption of SRI on a larger scale. So thank you so much for attending this and for presenting an excellent presentation by two speakers, and thank you to all the participants for staying even longer than our time limit. So thank
Dr.
you so
Joshi?
much. Yeah.
Can we text some photos before?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Can we have a group photo? Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Thomas, can you text the photo for us?
Yeah. So everybody, please open your camera for a while. Thank you so much.
Okay. I can take the photo, sir. Okay, for all dear participants, we kindly ask you to turn on your cameras for a moment, as we will have a documentation session shortly. And thank you for your cooperation. And if you have any issues with your camera, please let us know in the chat. Okay, everyone, I will take the photos for the first slide on my count in 1, 2, and 3. Okay, thank you. And I will move to the second slide on my count in 1, 2, and okay, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you once again, everyone, and have a nice day.